What's up, everybody? Hunter here with another movie review, and today we're going to be talking about the new Jurassic World movie, Jurassic World Rebirth. Without further ado, let's jump right in. I've been seeing a lot of complaints and a lot of people having a problem with this movie and saying that it didn't fulfill their expectations. And I went in seeing that with low expectations and, just wanting to see an entertaining movie. And I can honestly say, I was entertained. I see the things that people were saying and why people were giving it negative reviews, and I understand that, but I think this movie is getting a lot of unnecessary hate. I didn't think the movie was as bad as people have been saying it is. I had a lot of fun with it. I think the best way to explain this movie is it feels more like a Jurassic Park 3 or, the first Jurassic Park, where you're dealing with a smaller group of characters. There's not that many characters in this film, but some of them, die pretty early on. This movie is more focused on being that survival horror movie and not being more of that action movie like these other Jurassic World movies are, where, it's just about, cool set pieces and dinosaurs eating a lot of people. This film, it has some of that action, but it doesn't necessarily have the thing where, somebody's getting eaten every second. That's not what this movie is. It's focused on more of the characters trying to survive these encounters rather than a lot of people dying. So if you're going in expecting a lot of deaths and, dinosaurs eating people, you don't really get that in this movie. Not to say there aren't a lot of cool death scenes, because there are some very unique death scenes. When the deaths do happen, I feel like that's kind of the strong suit of this film. They do stand out. Specifically, there's a very cool death scene that involves a character and one of the pterodactyls that I think really stood out, and it really sat with me after the movie because it's pretty gruesome, and it was one of the cooler death scenes I've seen in any of the Jurassic World or Jurassic Park films. I thought they did a great job on that scene. But yeah, like I said, don't go in expecting, that type of film. It's more focused on the characters trying to survive rather than, a lot of people dying. I will say, though, it's not... They kind of tried to market it more as a horror movie. And it has horror elements, but I wouldn't say it's, scary or anything. There's some new cool dinosaurs that we haven't seen anymore, like the D-Rex you see in the trailer. That had a very cool and, different presence, especially in the final act. I thought they made the design, unique and, resembles almost like a xenomorph type dinosaur. And I was a little worried at first, that having a mutant dinosaur wasn't going to fit in the movie and make these movies something that they aren't. But, I thought it was fine. It still felt like a dinosaur to me. It didn't feel out of place in this world. There's also a lot of cool action scenes that I haven't seen in some of the other movies. Specifically, you see in the trailer this raft scene. I thought that was very well done. It felt like it was straight out of the original Jurassic Park book. And then there's also a great sequence with pterodactyls you also see a little bit of. And then the final act I thought was very entertaining. They have these other dinosaurs that you see a little bit in the trailer. I forget what they're called, but they have wings and they kind of resemble... a little bit of a baryonyx or raptor type of, dinosaur, a little bit bigger than raptors, but they were very cool to see. And they actually pose a pretty big threat throughout the entire film. And then you have the Spinosaurus back and some other dinosaurs I won't give away. Yeah, there were just a lot of cool sequences. And a lot of things that I haven't seen, which I was hoping that they were going to do. I hope that it wasn't going to be a rehash of the Jurassic World movies or anything like that. I thought all the characters are fine. Scarlett Johansson is, great as usual. Mahershala Ali was fine. I didn't have any problem with any of these other main adult characters or the main core group. When we get into the family aspect of this film, because, all these films always usually have a family at the core or, children that are in danger that up the stakes of the film. When you get into that, I think that's where this film starts to run into some character flaws and some problems. So basically, this film is kind of set up into two different categories. So you have the main group that's on the mission to extract blood from these certain dinosaurs for this pharmaceutical company. And then you have this family, which is the father, his two daughters, and their older daughter's boyfriend that are, on a trip, that are, sailing to one destination to another, that get caught in the crossfire. And they meet each other near the beginning, but they end up splitting off. I didn't necessarily have a problem with it, but I was kind of more engaged with stuff that was going on with the core group rather than the stuff that was going on with the family, because it felt like that part was the more central part of the film. And not to say that the family characters aren't interesting, but they aren't as engaging as the main group. And there were some problems I had with just the way they were portrayed. There's this boyfriend character, like I was saying earlier, that he has some funny lines. He's like the comedic relief character of this film, and he had some lines that I did laugh out loud at. But he's also, I don't know if it's the way the script was written or if it was an actor's choice, but he's played off as being kind of very arrogant, very selfish and lazy at the beginning of this film, and it really, really makes you hate him right off the bat. Like, just from the first very scene that he's introduced. Usually, like, when these movies try to do that to a character, they're setting them up to be that way so that you root for them to get eaten, and that, they're setting them up to die so the character doesn't feel too bad that they're going to get eaten by a dinosaur and actually want them to get eaten by a dinosaur. But, minor spoiler, he doesn't. He makes it all the way through to the end. And it felt like they were trying to set his character up for that, and that maybe the script went through rewrites and they decided, oh no, he's funny, we want to keep this character alive, so let's try to give him some more redeeming qualities. So there's like scenes throughout where he has some redeeming qualities, but then after those scenes happen, he says something really dumb or really arrogant or just something very unlikable. And it goes back to remembering, oh, this character isn't really that likable at all. And it just felt, that character felt a little off-putting. It felt like they didn't really know what to do with him. Other than, I will say he did have some funny lines. The rest of the family's okay. None of them I really think like stood out. I think they were probably, the less interesting part about this movie. Luckily, everything comes back together near the end, and you get a very epic, third act and climax of the film with the D-Rex that I was happy with, and the visuals were nice and all that. But I think the biggest problem this film has is it suffers from the trailer problem, to where a lot of these trailers showed a lot of this movie already. And, a lot of people are going in, like, seeing those trailers, and when they come out of it, you realize, like, if you've seen the trailer, and I'm sure you have because the marketing for this movie has been all over the place, which I think has been a detriment to this film. You notice that you can pretty much see the entire story and every single act in those trailers from start to finish. So where these scenes are going to go. You can already know, even before the film starts, almost how the story is going to unfold, what scene is going to happen next based off of what's going on. And I thought that was a little disappointing. Obviously, they can't really control the marketing. The studio, does that. But I feel like that is ruining it a lot for people, because people are going in already knowing everything that the film is going to throw at us. Not to say there aren't very cool scenes that aren't in the trailers. There are a lot of cool scenes. But like I said, you can kind of see the story from start to finish already from those trailers. But yeah, with all that in mind, I'm probably going to give this movie a 7 out of 10. I think it's an average, good movie, not great. Definitely better than the last, at least the last 2 Jurassic World movies for sure. It was entertaining. I had a good time, and I think it's a fine summer blockbuster that I feel like a lot of people will be entertained by. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's review. I hope you guys had a great day, and please subscribe or follow on whatever you're watching this on, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.